Good morning to you, to all our viewers and our listeners, to the Girls in ICT discussion. The theme is Inspiring a Generation. Now, we know we took a bit of a delay to begin, but we're here now and we're going to have a very exciting conversation for an hour and a half about the most exciting career profession in the world at the moment. We have panelists joining us from home, and we also have two panelists in the studio, hosted today, obviously, by the Ministry of ICT, Postal and Courier Services, supported by all our telco providers here in Zimbabwe. It's a fantastic and a well-supported conversation that we're going to have today. So as we know, Girls International ICT Day is an initiative backed by ITU member states in Plenipotentiary Resolution 70 to create a global environment that empowers and encourages young women and girls to seek tech opportunities. So we're going to be able to unpack this and unbundle it with our panelists and with you as well. If you have your questions, your comments, and your contributions, you can use any of the many platforms. We are on Radio Zimbabwe, we are on National FM, and we are on Facebook Live. Our hosts today are ZTN, and all our telco providers are also streaming on their Facebook platforms. So we have quite an audience today, so let's make sure we engage together. So without any further ado, let me welcome our panelists in studio and also at home. So in studio, we have got from the Ministry of ICT, Mrs. Georgina Chingonzo. Welcome.
Thank you, Ruveneko. Good morning, everyone.
And from POTRAZ, we have Mavis Maunganidze. Welcome.
Thank you, Ruveneko. Welcome, fellow panelists, and good morning, Zimbabwe and the world.
PowerTel is represented today by Nelia Musonza. Hi, Nelia.
Hello, Ruveneko.
Okay. Hi. Just for our those zooming in from home, remember to switch on your microphone. From next one, we have Patricia Majero. Welcome.
Hello, how are you, everyone? Good to be here.
And from Tel One, we have Rosemary Moyo. And from Dande Mutande, we've got Vanessa Goose.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you.
And from Econet Wireless, we have Wazanai Gopo.
Hi, Ruveneko. Good morning, women. Good morning, Zimbabwe.
From Liquid Telecom, we have Maide Angela Kwenda.
Thank you, Ruvi. Hi, everyone. Good morning.
And last but in no means least, we've got Telecel represented by Fadzai Zivanai.
Thank you, Ruveneko. Good morning, everyone.
Excellent. So now we're going to have some opening remarks to this conversation to set the context for what ICT looks like in Zimbabwe. Please, let's draw our attention now to our Minister of ICT, Postal and Courier Services.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm very delighted to welcome you all to this virtual commemoration of the 2020 Girls in ICT Day, which is running under the theme, Inspiring the Next Generation. This theme resonates well with the government of Zimbabwe's thrust to bridge the digital gender divide in line with the Sustainable Development Goals. Accordingly, the Ministry of ICT, Postal and Courier Services, through POTRAZ, is committed to adopt and accelerate broad and sustainable development by closing the gap and utilizing the transmuting potential of ICTs for women empowerment. The rapid technological advancements are creating new opportunities almost every day, and most of you in future will be in jobs that do not even exist today. But one thing you can be sure of is that digital skills will be essential in every profession that you will choose. To this end, we join the world in celebrating this important day belatedly. The Girls in ICT Day is an initiative backed by the International Telecommunications Union to create a global environment that empowers and encourages girls and women to consider studies and careers in the growing field of information communication technologies. As a government, we have a deliberate strategy to advance and deepen the economic and social empowerment of women in our country. Ladies and gentlemen, the girl child is a key player in the development of this nation. And this is why we are cognizant that women's participation in the digital society is both a right and recognition of a just, all-encompassing and rights-based approach. This is aimed at attaining universal objectives around gender parity and empowerment by the year 2030. According to ITU's Measuring Digital Development Facts and Figures of 2019, over half the total global female population of 52% is still not using the internet, compared to 42% of all men. Therefore, there is need to address the literacy gap and break down the many varied barriers that keep women out of the digital society. Furthermore, as government, we are seized with ensuring that equitable access and utilization of ICTs throughout the country, the vision being to create a knowledge-based society with ubiquitous connectivity. To achieve this vision, we will sustain our efforts in developing gender-receptive policies that ensure access to ICTs by women and girls. We will build digital capacities through developing content and applications that meet women's needs, including women in ICT sector positions of decision-making and strengthening international cooperation in the areas of access and participation of women and girls in technology. The Ministry of ICT, Postal and Courier Services, with its stakeholders, will ensure the availability of communications infrastructure throughout the country, provide support to equip schools, e-government, community information centers, innovation hubs, and to promote e-learning and other digital services. I urge our girls to take advantage of these facilities and break through all the barriers. I look forward to seeing our girls becoming technology creators and innovators, and not only users, in order to also take advantage of these opportunities to establish their businesses in future. I want to conclude by imploring all girls and women to participate, learn, and share ideas so as to contribute meaningfully to the socio-economic development of our great nation. Indeed, investing in the girl child is smart economics that can make an influence to transcend generations and borders. I will leave you with a quote from Kofi Annan, who once said, "There is no tool for development more effective than the empowerment of women." I thank you.
Thank you very much to our Minister of ICT, Postal and Courier Services, Dr. Muswere, for those remarks. Now, he mentioned something in his discussion saying that 65%, I mean, I know for a fact that 65% of children in grade 1 today are going to be working in jobs that don't even exist. And this is something we need to look at, right? He talked about also bridging the gap, this divide. We know we've got SDG 9, which is what drives us in terms of ICT, about access of information, access of technology for all. So ladies, now let's open our conversation here. Before we get to hear from the First Lady, just what your thoughts are on that particular point, to say we have jobs that are not yet existing and we've got this huge gap. What are we doing to address that?
Zimbabwe, it is my honor to address you today on this glorious celebration and commemoration of the International Girls in ICT Day, running under the theme Girls in ICT, Inspiring the Next Generation. This day comes at a time when the world is grappling with the deadly coronavirus pandemic. Its toll on human life is growing exponentially every day. While countries around the world, including our own Zimbabwe, are working tirelessly to flatten the curve of infections. Information communication technologies, ICTs, have become a crucial means to ensure that society remains connected despite this global crisis. ICTs have made it possible for me to address you today. The International Girls in ICT Day was established by the International Telecommunications Union, ITU, United Nations Agency for Telecommunications, with the aim to create a global environment that empowers and encourages young girls and women to consider careers in the growing field of information and communication technologies, ICTs. As an ambassador for the advancement of women and girls myself, I strongly believe that in order to achieve full economic and gender equality, girls and women must be capacitated through information communication technologies to be able to participate equally in all economic activities. The global workspace demands that we use ICTs in all aspects of life and deliberately encourage equal opportunities and employment for both men and women. This day, to me, is evidence of the reality that science and gender equality are both vital for the achievement of internationally agreed development goals. This includes the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. However, long-standing biases and gender stereotypes are scaring women and girls away from science-related fields. This needs our consistent efforts to turn around and change the status quo. We must applaud the Ministry of ICT, Postal and Courier Services, together with POTRAZ and the entire ICT sector for this commendable initiative that empowers young women and girls in this increasingly digital world. It is extremely important today, in the wake of COVID-19, more than ever, that Zimbabwean women and girls are prepared to solve various challenges within their communities using ICTs. As the African proverb goes, if you educate a man, you educate an individual. But if you educate a woman, you educate a nation. The Angel of Hope Foundation, an organization that I founded 2 years ago, is grateful to the sector for empowering girls and women in ICTs, a key enabler in today's world. Let me hasten to remind young women and girls under the sound of my voice today that technology, as great as it is, has its negative impact that they should guard against. Children remain vulnerable in the cyberspace. Cybersecurity and child online protection is now a global priority, which requires collective effort from governments, regulators, service providers, parents, and children themselves to create awareness and protection against any forms of toxic exposure, exploitation, and violence whilst using ICTs. As a mother myself, I am encouraged by this initiative and implore all stakeholders to continue with the efforts and hard work to ensure that all girl children are accorded equal opportunities. To the girls and women, I say to you, take this information that will be given today during a panel discussion with female leaders and engineers. Use it to propel yourself to a bright future ahead. You are the future leaders of our country and the whole world. Thank you. Attend.
Thank you to our First Lady for her remarks there. We know how passionate she is about girl children. It's something that she holds dear to her. And as repeated as well, like the Minister said earlier, about this knowledge gap and providing access to information. One thing that we had talked about earlier was about this gap and this knowledge gap that we have and how the jobs are going to change. So let me now come back to our panel. Let's start with our panel in studio, right? And ask, especially with POTRAZ, we have this gap, right? We have tried, there's a lot of, there's been, I think, over 100% mobile penetration, but that doesn't necessarily mean access to technology. It doesn't mean that children can learn from home, especially during COVID. So maybe you can tell us about that and how we're going to actually close that gap financially, practically. How's that going to work?
Okay, thank you, Ruveneko. It's very true that we still have that gap, especially between the urban and the rural in terms of connectivity. That negatively impacts the rural child, but especially the girl child, in that they don't have access maybe to internet. While they might have access to voice communication most of the times, or at times access to bundled applications like WhatsApp, you find that while there have been some efforts by some schools, especially in the current situation, to enable some sort of e-learning through those platforms, it's not adequate. We have some schools with teachers who are sending in work to students via WhatsApp or some other instant chat platforms. But you find that what we need is to work through current players in the industry. And also maybe as POTRAZ, we are working also through the Universal Services Fund to make sure that we bridge that digital divide between urban and rural areas. So we have been championing the deployment of e-learning to schools in the rural areas. We have also been championing the deployment of community information centers, which are mainly targeted towards making sure that people in rural areas have access to ICTs, at least within a certain distance from where they live. There is still a long way to go until we can be able to say maybe each child has access to their own gadgets, which are not shared. But ultimately, that would be the vision, especially in a situation like right now where a student, even if they have computers at school, they cannot go to that school to access e-learning and so forth. And there is also still an issue to do with internet speeds in rural areas. You find that internet in rural areas is a luxury that most cannot afford because of the cost of maybe buying data bundles and also maybe accessibility of communication backbones like the internet backbone in some remote areas. So those are still issues that POTRAZ and the industry at large are actually working on.
Okay, let's come to the industry, right? When we speak of this access, I mean, there have been so many discussions around rates, around accessibility. So we'll start with we'll leave the MNOs for a moment, right? And we'll speak to the ISPs right now. So let's start with Liquid Telecom. Liquid, let's talk about your efforts in connectivity, right? Because when we are speaking of the marginalized areas, the peri-urban areas and the rural areas, how are you working toward doing this? And are you facing any challenges in extending your connectivity to your users?
Thank you, Ruveneko. So as an organization, what we've done is we've introduced LTE packages for those areas with long distance connectivity. And it has been a bit of a productive program, but our main challenge now is the distance between the people who are connecting. And also we cannot rule out the economic factors into all this, because for infrastructure to be put in use, we need to be able to have people to subscribe. But also what we have also done is, especially now with the virtual workplaces that we've introduced and the educational systems that are there, we now have educational packages for our Microsoft bundles, such that even if it's a family or a child cannot afford to be connected online, the school can then bridge that gap. And once the school is able to bridge that gap, it is subsidized grade, then we have our children being able to connect. It's a process and it's something that is ongoing, but we believe that eventually we will be done and everyone will be connected.
Right. Okay. And then we can come to Dandem Tande as well. We want to understand as well what your efforts are. Liquid is talking of LTE for those areas. What are your efforts?
Well, we focus in a lot on our rural schools. We have a VSAT capability, which is what we deploy in a lot of the remote areas in the country where fiber or wireless solutions are not available. We've also got packages that are also for the educational sector, which helps the schools who can't afford high prices. We have certain packages we can offer them. We also have ventured into a program where we are offering an iStudy scenario for schools that they can have an e-learning platform right on the premises. So the school will have a hub that the students as well as the teachers and faculty will have access to. They'll have a online library where they can access the information from. So these are some of the things that we want to be putting across, and it's something that we are working on at the moment.
Okay. Rose, I'm glad you're back. You've been, hopping off your camera. I thought Talwan was now running away. But let's hear from Talwan as well. Bringing us together. How are you bringing us together?
Thank you, Ruvi. Hi, everyone. As Talwan, we've managed to connect many schools, the remote schools. We are using the satellite connection. So far, we've managed to connect about 1,800 schools in the remote areas, and it's doing very well. And we are working tirelessly to connect many other areas that do not have the infrastructure right now. We want to connect them using the satellite, and we are hoping that we'll connect everyone in the whole country and manage all children, all schools, and everyone in the remote areas will be able to access the internet through the satellite connection. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I'm going to now come to PowerTel to also give us their efforts. And the reason we're doing this is then we'll come to government, right? Because we have heard from the minister already, and we have a government representative in studio as well, so that we can tie all of these pieces together and find out in reality what are we doing about it, because it's fair and well for all the ISPs to give us their visions and their agendas and their plans, but maybe there are other hindrances, and we want to understand where the delays are and how we can immediately especially address the issues that the world is facing today. So let's hear from PowerTel. Please, Nelia, take it over.
Thank you very much, Rebecca. We as PowerTel have taken an advantage of our sister company, ZESA, Zimbabwe Electrical Services, and the distribution part. We are working on rolling out fiber through the pylons and also some ZESA poles to reach out to those rural areas. This program has already started. It started before we had this pandemic, but we have scaled it up for now, so that at least we get to most of the substations in the rural areas, and then we roll out the fiber so that they can get connectivity as soon as possible.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, ladies, for that. Now, I'm coming now, like I said, we've got ministry represented here, Mrs. Chingonzo. We are discussing this, but right now, children are not at school. And it's important for us to get right into this one because it is the big elephant in the room, as well as their intentions are as well-meaning as our ISPs. And in a lot of instances, the MNOs are keen to close this gap and assist. How are we going to get children back in school, especially when there is no connectivity and this advent of e-learning is not really a reality yet for us as a country? What do we do about that?
Thank you very much, Rubeneko. Let me begin by appreciating efforts by the ICT sector in terms of availing connectivity nationally. They are doing wonderful work. But yes, I think we heard from the Honorable Minister's speech that globally, 52% of women are not connected to the internet, and Zimbabwe is not spared. Yes, lots of efforts are being done to make sure that connectivity is brought right in areas that are out there, underserved areas. There are a number of efforts that we are doing as government, working with the sector to make sure that there is connectivity there. Yes, in the face of COVID-19, I think everyone has realized that ICTs are just very critical. Because right now, while as already mentioned by POTRAZ, that some schools are already offering e-learning services, we know that there are schools who would want to do that, but they are not connected. And obviously, it's a very big challenge. So as a government, yes, we are seized with that, particularly in this era of the COVID-19 pandemic. A lot of work still needs to be done.
So that still doesn't give us almost like a roadmap, you know, because it is again intention, right? We're all stating that we need to close the gap. They need to go back to school. And a lot of the ISPs talked about rural efforts, right? Saying that they want to bridge that without COVID-19. Their efforts are in the rural areas. But right now, a whole generation is missing out on, I mean, imagine if you're writing your O-levels or your A-levels or your grade 7 exams. What does your immediate future look like? You know, so I'll throw it back to the panel now, and maybe the MNOs can come in, because I know some of them are already involved in initiatives to, you know, in some instances offer free data browsing, but it still doesn't close this education gap. I mean, this panel is so powerful. I mean, when it comes to connectivity, there's probably no one missing in this room. So when we talk about this now, is to say, can somebody tell us something profound or that is going to be a game changer for Zimbabwe as we face COVID-19 and this education deficit? So I'll throw that out and particularly target the MNOs and offer you a chance to contribute to this particular issue that we're seized with as a country. Fadzai, Telecel?
Yeah, thank you, Reneko. Considering this issue of
okay, let's maybe, sorry Fadzai, I'm going to just stop you. Okay.
During this pandemic.
Sorry Fadzai, if you can hear me. Sorry, your connection is not very great. Your connection is not very, yeah, your connection somehow, we couldn't hear you clearly. So,
can you hear me now?
Yes, maybe try again. We'll just give it another shot. Okay.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so I was saying, considering the situation we are in, as MNOs, we are providing data for children to connect on their learning platforms. But I can say some are still facing challenges of connecting because of network in remote areas. And we are trying to work on this so that even the children in rural areas can be connected using our data, and also to connect like remotely for their learning. So data is provided and everything is there, and we are working on connectivity in all areas.
Okay, so connectivity, accessibility, I guess it's also the cost. You know, the zero rated access is a conversation we need to have as well, which I think should come in the answers as well from the other MNOs, because this is important. So let's come to Econet at this point and hear from you. Do you know, the best thing about this conversation is it's also a marketing platform for all of you, because we're now seeing whose connection is strong where you are. So it'll be interesting to see who stays connected and who we can hear the best. Like you know, may the best man win. Let's cross over to Econet and hear from you about this.
Okay, so that was so funny, Roberto, but yeah, that was a good one. Okay, so as Econet Wireless, what we have done, especially during the pandemic, to bridge the gap, to enable especially the young ones to stay connected in school education, is we've introduced the monthly Wi-Fi bundle for starters. That one is accessible to anyone, whether you're in school or not. It's much cheaper. It's a much cheaper bundle that allows everyone to be able to access our data services. And specifically for the children, what we have done is we've introduced an e-learning bundle that is very subsidized. And with the e-learning bundle, we enable the teachers and the students to have access to the internet, to anything on the internet, so that they can, if for example, the student needs to check something with the teacher instantly, they can check with their teacher maybe on WhatsApp or whatever other application they're using. The teacher can put schoolwork on Google Classroom, the children interact, and it's much cheaper, but the bundle is not limited only to those few applications that I've mentioned. And another thing is we've got the Resivo Learning application, which is entire content from the new curriculum. So we are really trying to bridge the gap to enable everyone to have access to education, even as we are remote. And on the issue of connectivity, our optimization team has been working flat out, especially since the lockdown, to make sure that every area has better access. So I'm pretty sure we have been noticing changes and improvements in whichever areas we are on, and efforts are still ongoing to make sure connectivity gets better and better.
Okay, thank you very much, Wadzi. Now we can hear from Net One. Patricia, maybe you can also let us know what efforts you're making. And as you answer, I also want to just throw something in there as well. Like I said, we are in an era where whoever manages to close this gap and fix this problem for this year is really going to be a hero and a champion and remembered. So I'm wondering with MNOs especially, have there been considerations maybe to partner with electronic companies, so that you talk about these packages and these bundles, but again, it comes down to what type of a gadget is a person using. So when you, I know there was a mention of LTE, for example, but if you're not using a smartphone, how are you going to be able to be in Google Teams or Google Classrooms, all of that. So maybe talking about how to bridge the gap, not just kuti taisa fiber tachera, but also to say, what are we doing to actually capacitate, especially children and teachers, to be able to do that? I know Mrs. Chingonza has her hand up here in the studio, but I'll just let Patricia go ahead first, and then we'll come back to Mrs. Chingonza. Thanks.
Thank you, Rui. It is an interesting conversation indeed, and we rightly so. We need to be doing something as the team that is sitting here. But all the efforts, unfortunately, if we are speaking truthfully, are not reaching out far and beyond. The e-learning bundles, the data bundles, most of them are accessible to people that are already having a network at the present moment. But if you don't have network, you cannot access anything. So our efforts as MNOs have been to reach out to areas where we don't have network, installing base stations, which are called boosters by some, but we acknowledge that it's not enough. In terms of gadgets, it is true that without the relevant gadget, you are not going to be able to access, even if the speed is high. As long as your gadget is not smart enough, you are not going to do anything. As Net One, we have engaged some device suppliers where we are actually getting devices on consignment, and then so that we are not just providing the network, but we are also enabling the market to access devices which are relevant to them, which they can afford. But we still have a long way to go, and we need to do more. Certainly, we need to do more.
Yeah. So before I come to Mrs. Chingonzo, just as a summary of what the MNOs have said, there is really also no answer directly to zero-rated access to any websites that are educational, except briefly from Econet. I know Wadzanai spoke a little bit about that, but this is something that I was hoping we'd hear more of, even again as intentional planning, maybe not to preempt any marketing strategies or anything like that, but just to hear this so that we can understand where we're headed. So we'll come back to you on that point, but let me hand over to Mrs. Chingonzo now to contribute to what we've just been saying. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ruveneko. Yes, so we have been talking about connectivity, but another big issue that is facing us is the issue of gadgets, the computers themselves. You'll be aware of the fact that as Zimbabwe, we have been a net importer of these gadgets. And then comes COVID-19. And then importing has its own challenges in this global pandemic. So getting those things, apart from the other challenges of the forex component and things like that, has also been a problem. But as government, we have also tried to come up with initiatives. Initiatives are underway right now where some of these gadgets can be assembled locally. And then as government also at national level, we have tried to put computers in schools, computers at various centers. But if you look at schools, for example, there are over 9,000 schools in Zimbabwe. most of which are not even connected to power. Their challenge is also related to power. So yes, there is work for us, but I think in the present environment, everyone is looking at ways of making sure that people are connected. Sure. People have the gadgets.
Sure. All right. Food for thought there on how we can sort out this issue about gadgets and devices. It is honestly so real. And as we said, without even COVID-19 as a pandemic right now, it is something we need anyway, in line with SDG 9. So on that note, we'll take a quick break, allow our panelists to mull over that thought, and then come back into it so we can also find some kind of solutions to this together today, again, without making any promises that are out of your jurisdiction or your pay grade. But just to sort of say, let's find ideas, let's throw things on the table. So just a quick 2-minute break and we will be right back.
The ICT industry is not all technical, but a vast industry with opportunities to be creative and innovative. It is not all about climbing towers and rolling fiber, but an industry which requires a lot of brain mass to produce and create layer 2 solutions which ride on that infrastructure. There are many aspects to ICT that include leadership, accounting, marketing, software development, which do not limit gender participation. I'm proud to say that at Africom, there are more than 35 women employees in different roles, from leadership to technical. And I want to encourage the girls to take up space in this exciting industry. It is very rewarding.
On girls and ICT, inspiring a generation is what we're talking about. And there is a big knowledge gap in the world. Apparently in the next 5 years, we're going to have a 2 million job gap regarding the jobs in ICT and tech. So there's a lot of thrust right now to encourage young women and girls to enter the sector right now. As we've been having this conversation, I'm going to leave that point we left on the break toward the end so we can come toward a conclusion. But for now, let's drive a little bit more about women in ICT, all right? Which is what we're all here for today. I've got women here who are engineers, scientists, and they're here to talk about the sector that they've managed to climb in this country, and it's never easy to do. And some are sitting as directors in entire ministries, you know, so we're really happy to have this panel here to now share some of their stories, because we have girls that are also listening, you know, who are in school, who want to be inspired and understand what this sector really entails. I asked earlier a few friends, I said, can you name 5 women who have changed the world through technology? And those names don't come to mind easily, because somehow there's been some men that have almost taken the shine for some of these discoveries. I was reading earlier today about the world's first computer programmer, right? Ada Lovelace. And these are people that we don't celebrate now today. We talk about our own heroes, for example, in the media sector, but we don't really talk about these women. There's Hedy Lamarr, who was the inventor of Wi-Fi in her own way. And then also the mother of the internet, Radia Perlman, and Elizabeth Fiendler, the original search engine, right? We talk about Google today as though it was the first one that ever came to be. So what we want to do now, ladies, is just get a little bit into that, talk about how women in the sector are making it. So let me come to Nelia from PowerTel, especially, and talk to you on this one for a moment, because you've got years in the sector, like many women here today. But I wanted to understand from you, Nelia, just in terms of even studying. Women sometimes take a long time to apply for a job or apply for a career program, because we're almost perfectionists. We're like, if I didn't get an A, I'm not sure I can do it. I should be an A student in order for me to enter tech. So maybe talk us through that, in terms of our minds and how we work, and how science and tech is not something we should be intimidated by. We can't hear you, Nelia. I know you've unmuted your mic, but we can't seem to get your sound. Not hearing you yet. There might be a bit of a glitch there. I'm not sure what's happening, but maybe we can't hear you. Nelia, we'll come back to you. Maybe there's a problem with sound. Maybe let's transfer this to Vanessa from Dandem Tande. Vanessa, what are your thoughts on that?
Thank you for that. Yeah, it is an industry that's very exciting. One thing I think a lot of young women will ask themselves is, am I cut out for this? It's a question I've also asked myself in the beginning days, but that's normal. So sometimes it's easy for us to have self-doubt, and in what is now really a male industry, and then we ask ourselves, can we make it through this? But one thing we need to remember as women, as girls, we can make the difference. And then once we conquer that self-doubt, we can rise to our fullest potential. And it starts with us. It starts with having faith in ourselves, and also skilling ourselves up, to focus on our goal. And one of the things that we need to do is believe in ourselves. And once we believe in ourselves, we'll find that many others will start believing in us. And one thing I want to say to the girls out there is, find a mentor, someone you can look up to, a lady who's made it in the industry, and look to her. And also never be afraid to ask for help. Do what you love, and love what you do. And I think this industry is very exciting. It's got a lot of opportunities. It's very vast. There's so many things that are changing. It's a digital age. Things are constantly changing, and there's always something out there for each and every one of us.
Thank you for that, Vanessa. Nelia, is your sound back? Can we have you back in now?
I hope so. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Please go ahead.
Okay, I was saying it doesn't really matter how many A's or B's you have, but you need to find your space. Like what Vanessa was saying, the industry is very vast, and it's ever changing. And, we can grab an opportunity from marketing to accounting. They have that in the ICT, but mainly you would want, as a lady, I know, or as a woman, you would want to make things happen. Naturally, we are multipliers. We are homemakers. We do a lot of stuff. And to think that with the ICT, you get to do things better. And in a way, it's very satisfying to know that you have done something that is giving someone a better view, maybe for doing their business or efficiency. So I'm thinking with ICT, it doesn't really need for you to have a lot of A's, but as long as you're a woman, you can do it.
Thank you, Nelia. We are discussing this as though we also know there's the good side of the world of the internet and technology, but there's also the negative side. So I wanted to speak to you as women as well to talk about what efforts we can make deliberately as well in protecting women. We know that there's an increase in cyber crimes, for example. Scary things are being invented in the world today, like chips that get put under your skin, and you can be identified and controlled in so many different ways, and even just predators on social sites. How are we as a sector looking at this and saying, well, as pioneers, as leaders, as people in this, and even as the MNOs and ISPs, when we talk about the protection of women in ICT, it's not just about the career path, it's also about women in general. And as custodians of this and in the positions you're in, maybe there would be the push from you as women leaders within your organizations to say, look, let's also increase the initiatives toward protecting women on the internet, because so much is going on there, especially from young girls. I mean, I open my niece niece's Instagram DM regularly just to see what's going on there, because you never know who can reach out to somebody. So maybe Maide, I'll start with you on that one. Your thoughts about that?
Thank you, Veneko. Okay, so for me, the first thing that comes to mind is cybersecurity. It might sound like a big word right now, but it is what we need. The web has been it's a good thing. There's the whole internet of good thing going on, but it's the scariest place to be as well. So it's our duty as ICT providers to then ensure that it is a safe place to be. But also, in as much as it is our duty as providers to make sure we've got the proper data encryption at rest and in transit, and we've got site filtering that we need, it is also the duty of the users, of our communities, of us as women, as mothers, to be able to know what is happening.
Yeah.
So the regular, as women, we can't just sit and wait to be told what needs to be done can be. Need us as women to be able to upskill, continuous learning, virtual learning. Right now offering those short courses. That's what we need, and that way we can have our girls and our women up to speed and be able to browse safely, securely, and happily.
Sure. Thank you, Maide. So the next time someone's network drops, I'm not going to say, Maide, we're losing you, or Nelia, we're losing you. I'm going to say, Liquid, we're losing you. So just be wary of that. I want to come to Patricia on the same point as well, to get your thoughts on this cybersecurity, as Maide brought up, it being a big word and a very important aspect of our lives today.
Okay, thank you, Rui. Looking at issues around security in the ICT, I think as women, maybe if you allow me to go back a little bit and speak to issues around why maybe there are no known role models out there. I think what we haven't done as women, we have made it in this industry, is to actually reach out and put ourselves out there to be known. So my challenge to even fellow women in this panel is we should start going out, reaching out to children out there, to girls out there, to tell them who we are, what we have done, what we've achieved, so that they know that there are other women who are out there. We have actually made it. That's one thing. Then the other thing is when we, as organizations, sometimes when there are gatherings, the women that are actually maybe behind certain things are not seen. It's the men that are speaking, the men that are talking. So even if the gathering has got more women than actually men, you will find that the men might be the ones who are driving, the speaking, the talking, etc. So as women, we need to rise up and show ourselves out there. Then coming back to security things, we need to teach them from the beginning that those dangers are there, to equip them to handle them. Like you were talking about your niece, Rui, she needs to know that when she goes to Instagram, she could meet up with things like this, so that she also knows how to handle it, what to do. Because sometimes a child is bombarded by these things and they don't really know. And if you are not speaking to them about it, either as a parent, as a sister, as a teacher at school, the other person who is actually attacking them will convince them that either it's right, and then they are taken away. So we really need to start teaching them when they are young, and we show them that these things are there, the dangers that are there need to be exposed, and then we also equip them to react appropriately.
Sure. Thank you, Patricia. You really touched on a very important a number of points there. And just to close this particular segment now, I'll come to our panelists in studio because we want to contribute toward this particular point, then take a break. So over to you, Mrs. Manganit.
Okay, thank you, Rubeneko. I think I would want to reinforce the point that Patricia just highlighted. One very important thing is education. Just like we teach our kids from a young age that when you are walking in the street, when you see such and such, it's a danger sign and so forth. We also need to teach them about the dangers that are found on the internet. And what that means is, as a parent or as a mother, you also need to be knowledgeable. We find that we have a weakness with the current system where we have parents who are not tech savvy. So as a result, you find that the child understands more maybe about using a gadget, about using the internet than the parent. In that situation, you find that the child might not be able to get that guidance. So you find always in terms of security, the human part is the weakest link. So once we teach our children to identify those danger signs and to try and navigate away from the dangerous sides or situations where they're most likely to be bullied and so forth, we empower them. While it is that will not exactly exempt them from the dangers that are on the internet, because it's a jungle out there on the internet and there are so many things that they are likely to face. It's a sure starting point which they can build on their own as they build more and more understanding of how the internet and the world works. So the starting point, especially for a girl child, is the parent themselves, maybe especially the mother. I think that's what I would want to contribute.
Sure. Thank you very much. And Mrs. Chingonzo, to close up our segment, please.
Thank you very much. If you can allow me to go back just to how what can be done to make sure that girls take up technology-related careers. I think we must begin with parents. I think we must appeal to parents so that if parents are talking to their children at a very early age, ECD, for example, and they're talking about the various careers, for example, in the ICT sector, and then the child goes to school, and then with ICTs, as these children are developing, they can actually be able to research and find out more information. I know of a country where, as the country was embarking on a science and technology related development, they had a science program for housewives. And the idea was to simply encourage the housewives to talk to their children so that they go into the S&T fields. And then, as far as cybersecurity is concerned, I just wanted to share the fact that as the Minister of ICT, we have embarked on cybersecurity awareness campaigns. Last year, for example, we were in various provinces trying to educate everyone nationally as far as cyber threats are concerned and what they need to do so that they protect themselves. And we also have child online guidelines that were developed by POTRAZ. I think these are available also on the POTRAZ website and on the ministry website so that the young girls should access these, read them, be familiar so that they protect themselves against threats.
Sure. Thank you very much for that. As it's a very sensitive subject, I mean, for many of us, and especially in our space, there's a lot of cyberbullying that goes on and a lot of shaming and victimization that happens on the internet. What we would like to see is a lot more voices like yourselves and like government stepping in when somebody is like overtly bullied online, especially as a woman. I think that's where it does start. So the awareness campaigns must be coupled with actual case studies that, look, this is a case we've identified as government. This is what is out of order. This is an example of cyberbullying. This is an example of a cybercrime. And then we put that to the fore for everyone to understand and as media to communicate that message as well. But we're going to take a quick break now and we're going to hear from the MD of TEL 1, Mrs. Chipo Mtasa. Stay tuned.
My journey in IT is not brief, although I started in 2013 as a managing director for TEL 1. My journey started off, as I say, in January 2013, and I was coming from a hospitality background. So you can imagine an accountant who was mostly from the hospitality industry coming into a very technical field. It was not easy, but they had to do a lot of understanding, a lot of reaching out to the teams that were there to try and understand the business. And thankfully, I had a lot of assistance, not just from my own team members, but from a lot of other organizations that we deal with. We deal with the West Indian Ocean Cable Company. I remember they were flying in to induct me into IT. Our vendors like Huawei, we had a lot of exposure programs with them. And then through ITU, I was attending some of the ITU sessions, the International Telecommunications Union. So that really helped me to understand a bit around the business of IT. It has been an exciting journey, I must say. And to me, I do not regret ever joining the sector. This is a field that is very exciting. It's dynamic. Things are changing all the time, and you will never get bored. And I think it's a journey that any young woman who's got the energy, the passion for change should take. And I encourage any young woman who wants to take it. It's not impossible. If I could do it, then certainly them, you know, the young people today, they've got much better brains than us. So if I could do it, certainly they will do even better. They can do so much more. And it's so exciting these days that we find young women branching out in IT in so many ways. They are software developers. There are people who are just designing their own apps. There's so much that's happening in the world of e-commerce. And this is very exciting.
Conversation this morning on ICT. Girls in ICT Day was commemorated this year on the 23rd of April. So these are delayed commemorations, but you know what? They've been happening all over the world, especially given what's been going on with COVID-19. And in 2019, it was estimated that Girls in ICT Day reached an estimated 20,000 girls around the globe. Now, that's not a lot if you think about it, when you think about numbers in the world and how many women are in the world. And this is what we're discussing right now. As we took a break, we were talking about careers and how to inspire young girls to enter this profession. So as I said in the beginning, we have a high delegation of women in ICT. Some have 37 years experience, 22 years experience. And when you think about it, for some of us in our 30s, if someone has 27 years experience in one sector, that's a really long time. And you look at how they graduated as engineers, for example, that long ago. And if somebody graduates today as an engineer, there might not be that many eyebrows raised. So what we want to ask the women today, with their various ages and years and experience, how are they managing to stay in the sector, and how were they inspired, let's call it 37 years ago, to get into a sector that probably had one or two women in it versus the women that today are now trying to get in. So we'll start now. We haven't heard from Rose in a little bit. So Rose, I'll come to you on this particular question, and you can tell us your experience. So you've been 10 years in information systems. You're at TAL1, and your educational background talks of certificates and diplomas and a BSc in management. So let's understand your entry, your inspiration to get into this at the time that you did.
Okay, thank you, Ruveneko. I joined TAL1 in 2008 as a trainee technician. I didn't know what I was getting into. I just saw an advert in the newspaper. I applied. The moment I came to Runare to drop off my CV, that's when I saw a certain guy. That guy wanted to pull me down. He just asked me what I was applying for. He said, "Are you willing or are you prepared to climb up the ladder?" Then I was like, yes, I can. If you can do that, I can do that as well. So I dropped off my CV. Yeah. Then I went for interviews. We were just about 10 ladies and more than 100 men on the interview day. So, you know, there was an imbalance between the men and women, but it didn't let me down. I I was just curious about the field and I wanted to know more about it. So I was impressed. I was excited about the whole thing. The interview went well. That's when I started the trainee technician program. It was so exciting. It wasn't an easy journey, but I managed to pull through hard work. Through hard work. It wasn't easy. Men used to look down upon us, but we worked very hard. And that's when I finished my course in 2009 and joined the information systems in 2010. I was when I joined the information systems department, there was only one woman in that department and about eight males. So I was the second lady in that department. It wasn't easy. My job involves attending to people. The moment I started to go and attend to people, they used to look down upon me. It wasn't easy. They used to look down upon me. When you enter into someone's office, just ask you, are you the one who is here to attend to me? So through hard work and support from colleagues, some didn't support, but some supported us. That's what made me who I am today. I started upskilling myself. I enrolled for a degree program and some other courses to help me to perform my duties well, and it helped me a lot. And I want to everyone who supported me. My bosses were so supportive. My family was so supportive. So I want to thank you, everyone who made me who I am today. And I'm enjoying my work, my job as a network technician, and I'm aiming higher. I want to move from a network technician to an engineer in no time.
Wow.
So yes, so I'm
yeah,
looking
that's
to
amazing. That is amazing. Thank you. Yeah, it's good that you talked about the support structure that's required. I mean, from spouses to family to colleagues. And you just also just saying, look, you're putting in your CV and so am I. I'm glad to hear about you earning a lot. We haven't talked about salaries yet. But there is that global conversation about the inequality in salaries between men and women, where you'll be sitting at the exact same level or you'll be playing the exact same tournament for the exact same amount of hours, but somehow men always get more. I want to ask Fadzai a question now, just on the contrast, because we're going to bounce between ages and years and experience as we talk about these stories. Fadzai, you can tell us a little bit as a young person and of the sort of Generation X. Tell us about your desire to enter the sector and what was the driving factor. Just unmute your microphone.
Yeah, okay.
There we go.
Thank
Sure.
you so much. Can you hear me? Yeah.
Yes.
So I don't have so much experience in this field. I just finished school recently. So when I saw job adverts during my time after college, most of them were for software development. And my friends could say, this company advertised, but it's development, so Ma1. So I just told myself like, oh, wow, how can I say Ma1? I can just apply for such a job and I will see when I get there. Honestly speaking, I did not have experience in software development. I couldn't write code on my own, but I just told myself when I get there, I'll definitely make it. So I applied for the job, and fortunately, I don't know, but I was the only lady, and I got the job. There were only men in the department. So I was like, can I do this thing? But the gentlemen whom I met, they motivated me. They were so welcoming. They introduced me to programming, and I couldn't take time to adjust to the environment. And to tell you what, I'm now the leader in my department in software development. So I'm so proud of that. And I would like to encourage all the girls out there, please, you can do it. Just remove what we call fear of the unknown. Programming is for everyone. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. That's a very inspiring story. And I mean, I think that's the beautiful thing about this generation. I mean, I'm sure some of you can attest that your own children are software developers when they play with your tablet and your cell phone, with how much they understand these gadgets so quickly, which is why it's not shocking for Fadzai to say, I just applied and I learned on the job, and they pick it up and absorb it so fast. And this is a benefit. So I want to cross over now to Patricia, who has 35 years in this sector. There were no tablets, there were no cell phones, there was no inspiration on the internet, but somehow you've managed to work your way through it. But I'm pretty sure if I gave you a cell phone right now, you wouldn't be able to do half the things a 10-year-old could do. But here you are with 35 years experience in such a technical sector in your own right, with different milestones that you achieved. In your 35 years, what was the biggest milestone that you feel you were a part of in witnessing the evolution of technology?
Thank you, Ruveneko. Sorry. The biggest milestone was the advent of the cellular phone itself. I was part of it in 1996 when it started, and the phones that we're using back then, it was like a brick. That's how big they were. And when I actually got a cell phone, we were shy to speak on them, because when we're moving around, it would be like you're talking to yourself. And because there were so few of them, and people would look at you and wonder, you're talking to yourself, what is going on? So I'm glad I was part of that. But I just wanted to wind back a little bit to entering this field. When I got in, it was the time when we were coming out of independence, because it was in the 80s, coming out of independence, where some people that were in telecoms were actually going back. I think there was some element of disruption there, where the government had to move in very quickly to upskill people that would take over from those that were leaving. And I'm glad that I was one of them. But we were it was a crash program where we had to learn very, very quickly. And working with men who would remain men. They would talk their dirty jokes, they would talk whatever it is. I think part of what they were doing was maybe to scare me out of the job. But I stuck in there. I hung in there. But to the young girls that are out there, and this is no time. I think even now it can still happen. Where if you are in a male-dominated field, you really have to stomach up some of the things that will be thrown at you. Things like if you start moving around, moving up the ladders, some will not believe that it's on merit. Others think that the man who is above you, or who is the boss, something is happening between you and them to rise up. So you need to be true to yourself, because what actually sustained me was this ability to be true to myself, where I would hear things, but not hear things, if you know what I mean. Things are said, but you don't hear them. They don't get to you. They don't pull you down. So if you're a girl and you get into a field that is male dominated, the men will remain men. They will do whatever they do as men. But you have to stand in there, remember that you are there to do the job. And as a woman now, you need to double up. Your effort has to be much, much more. But I'm still there. And my passion is now to also motivate other women, other girls to actually do what I do. I actually fix things around the house. If something breaks down, if I take it to a specialist, it's because maybe I don't have the time, but I fix stoves, I fix whatever it is. But sometimes when you do that now, some people might then tend to assume that you want to take over their roles.
Yeah. we know what you mean.
Yeah. So, yeah. But it's an exciting field that we are in. It's engineering, ICTs, and I've seen evolvement from the brick type of phone to the miniature phones, even the equipment that we're working with back then. A whole room would be full of equipment that would do what is being done today by just, a small unit, a small entity. So there's been miniaturization that has also been taking place, and I've been part of that, where I've come from analog systems to digital systems, big, huge computers to miniaturized computers. I've seen it all happening. And I still have a few more years, and I'm waiting to see a little bit more of what is in store for us, because this is an ever-changing.
Sure. Yeah. No, thank you so much, Patricia. I mean, your journey is just exciting to listen to. I mean, Judina and, probably television sets that had a back, Atinoti Godsi, you've really seen the evolution of technology and you've lived it. And the size of women's handbags has gotten smaller with nicer phones these days. You don't have to put a brick in it. So you really have a self-told story and testimony, and we're really happy that you could share that with us. And I'll come to Vanessa, who has not much less years. She's got 22 years experience in the sector. And Vanessa, so many points were touched on. I could see you nodding and smiling profusely as Patricia was speaking. I think there's so much you identifying with in your own journey. And I mean, you went into school and you, at that time, went in and did Microsoft certifications, a diploma in networking, PC maintenance. Who was thinking of all of that at that time? You know what I mean? I mean, what made you want to do all of those things at that time? So tell us a little bit about your journey, Vanessa.
Okay. I always liked to do things different. I always liked to challenge things that weren't normal. I always felt like, going for it. So this is what made me take an interest in IT. When I joined at the time, there was literally very few women, if any, in the industry, in the place that I worked at. One of the things that I really enjoyed one of the things that really sticks in my mind was the first time I made an impression with the guys in my team. They looked at me and they said, "Oh, you're just a pretty face. You can't really do anything on a machine." So I say to them, "Okay, fine. Give me a machine. Show me how to put it together." And they did that, and then they pulled it apart, and then they said, "No, go ahead." I put it together and switched on the machine, and everything was working fine. And they were like, "Wow, a woman can actually do that." And I was like, anything that a man can do, a woman can also do. It just takes the skill, the effort, to want to learn. But those are one of the things that really sticks in my mind. And yeah, and also, it's from that moment the guys started looking at me as one of the guys. So it was a great experience.
But you earned your stripes. You had to prove yourself.
Yes. I found that, as a woman, you had to go the extra mile. It wasn't like any other guy who walked in, and just because he was a man, things were just given, and it was taken for granted that he knew what he was doing. But you had to work harder than most of the men around, or most of the guys around.
Yeah. Thank you, Vanessa. That is always the case, right? Women constantly having to prove themselves, and also sometimes underproving themselves. As Patricia says, she can't now be fixing things in the house because Mudara knows a sarachite. So sometimes we have to overprove and in some instances underprove. It's crazy, but this is the world we live in, and it is a man's world in so many ways. But today it is about us as women in this sector. And as we take a quick break, we're going to come back with who this message is from. Wads and I stand by, because we're now going into an Econet message, and then we'll come right back in with you after the break. Stay.
Hey guys, so here's some super exciting news. The Body Beats app is now available internationally. You can buy music from anywhere in the world. It doesn't matter. You're in the UK, the USA, Australia, South Africa, just anywhere. You can just download the Body Beats app from the Play Store or your App Store. You can register using your email or your Facebook details. And voila, you're ready to get some good music. Anyone from across all networks can access the app. You can subscribe using your EcoCash, your Visa, or MasterCard. So let's start listening and enjoying great music. You can get songs like Zadzisa, ndimi, nyasha, ningoni, and the list goes on. So what are you waiting for? Download that app and start listening to great music.
And welcome back to our discussion today on Girls in ICT Inspiring a Generation. We are in panel, we're in studio, and we also have guests joining us on their platforms at home via Zoom. So we're all zoomed in. We're broadcasting on National FM, on Radio Zimbabwe. We're hosted by ZTN, and we're also on all the various platforms of the telecommunications providers here on this panel as the partners and sponsors. So a big thank you to all of you for making this conversation possible for all the girls. And I hope that it's a message that we'll be able to translate to different communities. As all of you spoke about in your mandates and what you want to do for Zimbabwe, you want to reach all the marginalized communities. So it is good that we're using Radio Zimbabwe as a platform. We know it penetrates pretty much most of the country. I noticed kuti conversation yedu, I think one of our native languages, saka parishno takudochinjagia mbichana. Saka patinovunza kana mchinge makasununguka, you can also answer in whatever language you prefer. Okay, I think let's be free, let's be Zimbabwean, proudly so, and ensure that everybody who's listening can take something home. So when my engineer and turn it down a notch so that everyone can appreciate and take something home. So Wadzanai, I'm coming back to you now as we do speak to the rural community, the ones that are not as privileged as those that are sitting in offices with air conditioning. So Wadzanai, patinotauranya ma game changers. Tatanga ninyayo at the beginning of the conversation. Mese mapa my examples in you in your various organizations for what you're going to do to bridge the gap and reach all areas of the country. Let's get back to that because takudama solution-based discussion. Tangible So as Econet Wireless, let's come back to you. You spoke a little bit about zero access browsing, Anditi. So let's understand a little bit more about that and how one can benefit from it using any device, really. So over to you, Wazi.
All right, Rubeneko. Yes, okay, so for now, says what we've zero rated, especially we have zero rated a couple of sites, especially this initiative. That's okay, Rakuchirungu and my apologies.
Especially for technology, because as this is
like zero rate that you should.
Zero rate. What's Wi-Fi in Shona? I don't even know. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So yeah. What we would like to do is with munhu wese akwanise kunge achiwana mukana wekuti ave neaccess to the internet. Saka kana achitaura zero rating, all we are saying is munhu wese agara ari panetwork yeEconet, agara aine line reEconet, pane masites atinoita kuti akwanise kuenda pamasites vayo asina mari yaabhadhara. All you need to do is kuva munhu ari paEconet. And one of those things, Chataka Zero Rata, for example, is this initiative, UNICEF, your Internet of Good Things. So as long as Uripa Econet network, you can go onto the UNICEF website and see Jurbitika, and also like Shatambo Taura Paya Kuti, my education, for Zikoro, we have takadzikisa mutengo yemabundles kuita kuti vanhu vese vakwanise kunge vachiwana education. And chimwe chatakaita chakanyanyokosha kuti tisangoende kune zvekudzidza chete as well. Tiri panguva yeCovid-19 zvatiri kuziva tese. And seEconet zvatakaita ndezvekuti zvatinosiita nguva dzese kana paita national crisis takazviita again. And now taita crisis yeCovid. I'm sure we've all seen my messages anga achiburitswa tichiedza kuunganidza mari pamwe chete kuti tumirai number to this, tumirai mari to this eco-cash agent, tumirai mari kwakati nekwakati. And we've actually managed to do a lot with Tenga PPE, which tibatsire to keep everyone safe. And also takabetsera nekudonata to a couple of hospitals kuti ange ari prepared kubetsera vanhu. I don't know if I managed to answer you well, Ruveneko.
Ayo mapindwa edu timanyatsosvika patiri kuda kusvika. Ndiri kuda kuti tirambe tichitaura iyo nyaya yekuti masolutions anditika kuti especially panyaya yekuchikoro yezvikoro yevana vari kuda kudzidza. Tell one Matinyarare, I'm coming to you, Rose. Muri kuonawo zviri kuita vamwewo vane zero rated access, handizivi kuti muri kuzvigonawo here kana munozviona sei. Pari zvino takuda kunzwawo kwamuri.
Okay, waita basa Ruveneko. Sector 1 tiri kuonawo zviri kuitika munyika yedu in terms of COVID-19, and tinema zvatakakwanisa kuvawo nazvo, like tine yatinoti learners tab yatiri kupa kuvana vechikoro, especially for avo vari kuita ma-STEM subjects. This learners tab inokwanisa kuaccesswa nevana vachiita ma-lessons avo. Zvinowanika pa-learners tab, tino-include ma-Cambridge subjects, even ne-edu emuno. So with this learners tab, hapana ma-extra charges aripo pakuaccessa this learners tab pa-online. Vanema sekuziya kwamunoita te1 tine ma-bundles akati chipei chose ekuti munhu anokwanisa kuaccessa internet. So kana vana vachiaccessa learners tab hakuna ma-extra charges avari kuchajwa. And with learners tab mwana munokwanisa kuongorora zvaari kuita in terms of kudzidza kwaari kuita achishandisa this learners tab. So zviri kubatsira vana vari kudzidza vari kumba kuti vakwanise kuaccessa work material yavo vari kumba vachizviita zvisina ma-charges akawanda. And with this learners tab unokwanisa kuiaccessa uri anyway kwauri, as long as ungori internet access. And sezvatangotaura Tel1 mabundles edu akachipa zvekuti anokwanisa kuaffordwa na-almost everyone. So this learners tab ndo yatakabuda nayo in this COVID-19 era kuti ibatsire vana vari kudzidza vari kumba, sezvo zvatiri kuziva kuti kune ma-exam classes ariko, ma-form 4s ari kufanira kunge achinyora ma-exams. Vana ivavo vanokwanisa kudzidza vachishandisa learners tab yedu. Thank you.
Pakanaka. Nelly atinzwo zvekuPowerTel. Muri kukwanisa sei ko period yedu ye-COVID-19 nekubatsira vadzidzisi kuti vaite basa ravo nevadzidzi kuti vaende mberi nezvidzidzo zvavo.
Maita basa Ruveneko. Isu sePowerTel tine bundle ratinaro ratiri kupa kune vanhu vari paPowerTel platform rinonzi student package. Iri rinobatsira, rinotengwa nemutengo wakaderera compared kune mamwe ma-packages atinawo. Iri rikukwanisika kuaccesswa nemwana kana achinge ari pauniversity kana kuti vari ku-secondary school. Takaona kuti vanhu kazhinji ndo vanenge vaine magadgets kudhara ekunge vachipinda painternet. Saka pari zvino hatisati takubatsira hedu vekuprimary, but mostly vari kuuniversity nevari kuma-high school, especially vari kuita ma-final years avo. Vanokwanisa kungoita log in voisa kana student ID yavo vopiwa mukana wekutenga mabundles iwawo.
Thank you, Nelia. I want to come to Mrs. Chingonzo here, who is sitting with us in studio from government side. These are just but a few initiatives that have been mentioned. We'll still come back and give the others an opportunity. But my Chingonzo, timbonzwisisa panyaya yekuti access yema gadgets, access ye connectivity, it's two different things. Both of them need a lot of work. In some countries, it's very easy for someone to walk into a store and get a gadget on contract, for example, where, you know, whether you're registered with with whichever MNO or even an ISP, or badarama monthly payments and ditika. Is this something that government can do and assist in terms of subsidizing? Because imagine all these providers here today, if they were told by government, for example, that no, if you manage to put your rates at this much, we've partnered with this local gadget company, and I know that there's already one that exists for civil servants. I won't mention their name. I'm sure all of us know who I mean. Or if not, I can't market them for free. But basically, there is that package in civil servants that exists already. Is this something that government can step into this gap now and say, let's work with these guys, and say parents even attach their school fees maybe somehow, or some way. Also bearing in mind there's so much unemployment, not everyone's got a working contract for you to peg things against. But is this something that maybe we can do?
Thank you very much, Ruveneko. Yes, there are companies, like you've rightly mentioned, that are sort of loaning out computers. You pay your rent, as it were, and then you use it for some time and things like that. And then there are companies also where you can buy things, higher purchase sort of, and then you pay monthly. That is happening. But at government level, yes, we are aware of the challenges, particularly the cost. You will realize that a few years back, the ministry advocated for duty-free imports of ICT gadgets. And that helped in availing a lot of these gadgets on the market. But still, the gap continues in terms of unavailability of gadgets, as it were, especially when you look at the cost. So that's why, as I mentioned earlier on, that government working with some of the companies, and I can perhaps specifically state that in one of the factories in Masasa, government is actually working on a program to assemble these, so that if they are assembled here, the hope is obviously that the cost will not be that prohibitive, so that gadgets then become available at affordable prices. Yes, so those are some of the initiatives that government is undertaking.
Okay, that is very encouraging to hear. I think the local assembly of gadgets you brought up as well earlier in the conversation. So it's not something that is impossible. But let's hear from also our other panelists around a model like this, or any other models, and those that haven't spoken about the initiatives that they're taking toward COVID-19, resolutions. So I'll come to Maide from Liquid. Maide, if you could chime in there with your thoughts on that kind of arrangement, and also what Liquid is doing for COVID.
Okay, thank you, Ruveneko. I think that arrangement can work. Having a local assembly point here is better, because we then get to be able to subsidize. I'll give an example of the current motorbike assembly that's going on in the prisons. That's what we need in ICT. Yes, it does help on the motor industry, but imagine now in this time where everyone has moved to being on the virtual workspace, how much further we could go in even sustaining industry during a lockdown if we had cheaper computers available, cheaper phones available, cheaper tablets available. That's the initiative that we need. Hoping that we are actually able to sustain such. And then in terms of the initiatives that have been done by Liquid, I'll move a bit to the Shona side. So the first thing we did was Takaisama free Wi-Fi zones. Before COVID came, we had edu zones in every university and college. And that were just to allow free connectivity for all students. And then now that COVID is here, we are doing cloud computing. We're offering cloud as a service currently. And what we have done is, for all the schools that want to move to the Liquid Virtual Education platform, the services are free. So for schools, they don't have to pay for anything. And the cloud service now is such that you get a license that can sustain your learners and the teachers on one platform. So it is a way of then connecting everyone and making sure everyone can access their e-learning platform. We've also managed to have 0-rated sites. So this just means mwana wese aripa university arikutry to access an e-learning site can do so at no cost. Those are the initiatives that we have done as Liquid, and that's what we're still running.
Okay, thank you very much, my day. It's good to hear of 0-rated and also for these e-learning sites. What I'm getting is there is a lot of these sites that are obviously going to come up, and it's not now we're not getting into an education discussion, because at the end of the day, it is really about ICT. But just to say, and maybe for us to all think about on this note, what then? How do we do this quality control? How do we sort of determine what is on the websites? How to determine the best kind of website? Are their websites engaging? Is there that kind of interaction? Is there that platform? Can it compete, for example, with Google Teams, which needs more data for one to log on to? So are these also initiatives where all of you can consider actually creating our own platforms that are Zimbabwean based, not just websites for downloading books and you're my 0-rated, but ngabe my platform at why must Google be the only ones be able to do it? Or even Zoom. Surely there can be a way we can create a Zimbabwean based platform that is 0-rated, that people can then access from all of you collectively under one umbrella, whereas POTRAZ drives it, or government sells Zivi. But I guess that's food for thought as we take a break now and hear from our other partners, Net1. Stay tuned, we'll be right back.
Day in and day out, the world's technology is rapidly changing, and how business is done changes too. The help of a reliable ICT solutions partner makes it possible for you to stay geared. Lande Mutande is a partner that powers you virtually anywhere, a partner that opens new possibilities. With over 20 years of experience, Lande Mutande has a team of experts that are ready to provide you with high-speed connectivity, customized cloud solutions, cybersecurity solutions, and smart solutions through the Internet of Things. Lande Mutande is your one-stop shop for hardware, software, and ICT training. When you think Lande Mutande, you are guaranteed of reliability. We always adapt and innovate to provide you with services that enable you to always put your best foot forward. Lande Mutande, your reliable ICT solutions partner.
Welcome back to our discussion on Girls in ICT as we commemorate Girls in ICT Day, which is a UN-led initiative under ITU. And we do commemorate this day every year in Zimbabwe for the last couple of years. And it's been something that has been growing, and we hope for it to grow more. So much has come from this conversation, and now we're in our final segment of discussions. And we do have our panelists, as we said, on Zoom, and some in studio with us today. So we are going to just now wrap up, but I want to just say, as an independent observer, I was just watching all the commercials that we're running during the break. And I was looking at the style that everyone has chosen, which is connectivity in the office, in the home. Meanwhile, in our conversation, you're all talking about how you want to reach out to other communities. I'm waiting to see an advert where we see kids with no shoes on cell phones, right? Saying that we're connected and this is what we're doing. So it's, in a way, it's like, well, what narrative are we really pushing? Because we're talking about something that we're not actually even dreaming it or conceptualizing or putting into our creative. So this is something that we need to now hone in on as we conclude our conversation this morning. We haven't heard from some players in terms of their solution-based approach toward the era we're in, which we call the COVID-19 era. So let's hear from Vanessa Tande. And I won't dare, try and speak to you in Shona unless you're one of those amazing Zimbabweans of a different race who has learned it. So surprise me. Unataura ere, Vanessa.
Yeah.
I love it. No, go ahead. Go ahead.
I have a gift for hearing, but not for speaking.
That's fair enough. At least we can't talk about you, and you won't know what we're saying. So no, Vanessa, please go ahead and tell us about what Nandemtand is doing for COVID.
So for COVID, we are working on the work from home solutions. We've also been working with for the e-learning platform on the Office 365 Teams platform for the schools, offering on those two, just to bring awareness. Also in terms of the COVID-19, the organization as a whole, the Muswere group has also put in efforts to make to educate in terms of what we should be doing during this COVID-19 and the safe measures that we need to be taking. One of the most interesting things for me, and it also talks home for me, is because as a parent, I think one of the things we're most interested in is on the education of our kids. And are our kids just sitting at home, getting bored when they should be learning? So this is one of the things that we are pushing through so that kids can have an e-learning platform. And also in terms of the rural areas, the rural schools, where they don't have such access. It's an initiative that's been talked about even before the COVID-19 came into place, where we want to be putting in facilities for the rural schools, giving kids their own devices so that they can have access to the e-learning platform, to loading the curriculums on the local hubs within the schools so that teachers and the students can have access to, and then bringing connectivity into these schools via satellite, the VSAT platforms that we have. Nandemtand is one of the biggest players when it comes to the VSAT reach. So this is where we also want to push so that schools rurally can have access. So these are the initiatives that we're pushing. We're also pushing on our LTE platform so that those who don't have fiber connectivity or easy to reach places can also access via the LTE solution. So these are one of the things that's really at the heart of the organization.
Sure. Thank you very much, Vanessa, for that. I enjoyed the look on everyone's face when you said Nandemtand is the biggest in VSAT. Everyone has their own opinion. Everyone's like, what? No. But I love that. I love it. And we hope that there'll be a lot more, of talk of who's the biggest and what, but also, again, like we said, solutions-based toward being the biggest or the game changer in this era for Zimbabwe. So now over to you, Fadzai. Let's hear from you at Telecel about what you are doing in this era. Your mic. Thanks.
Okay. So as Telecel, we introduced an e-learning package. It's called Funda. It's shown on like Kudziga. As we all know, kuti vana vechikoro havasikuenda kuchikoro, they are staying at home. So this bundle inoita kuti vataure nema-lecturers avo, vataure nema-teachers avo online. So it does not offer only data, it has got talk time as well. Kuti unzwisise zvinoda kutaura. Some are not good at just typing, or just like what we are doing. We are not typing, we are not doing anything like using the keyboard. We are using our mouth, like, so that we understand each other better. So this bundle, is always tell us or always offer cheap data. This is very affordable. Kuvana vechikoro, we know they don't have money. Everyone akaomerwa, abereki akatomerwa. So this is an opportunity. Kuti every child any opportunity to learn at home. Society and this situation yapera. Yeah, that's what we have to tell us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Fadzai Funda. Yeah, it sounds good. It sounds very, very direct and practical. And now over to you, Patricia, from Net One.
Wazvita Ruveneko. Kunet One takaonawo zvakakodzera kuti panguva ino yepandemic tiwanewo zvatinoita. Saka tine for vana vechikoro kunyanya vari kuma-colleges, ma-tertiary colleges nema-university, tine e-learning bundle really heavily subsidized. Yeah, it's so discounted that it's almost like zero rated. Really accessible through.
But I see 0.
It's not 0, but it's 0,00000.
Okay.
So, really accessible through my colleges and my schools. At the same time, tineo bundle rimwe ratanga tiri kutengesa ratinoti Wi-Fi rainyanyomboshanda pama Wi-Fi modems. But here zvinori available as long as uine any device, even chero pafoni. Bundle iroro rine mutengo wakanaka chose, and ukakwanisa kushandisa promotion yatinayo ye20% discount pa airtime yedu, zvotokuita kuti bundle iroro toriwana futi ratonyanya kutodzika. Saka ibundle rekuti chero mubereki ari ane smart gadget anokwanisa kuti aritenge, sezvo vazhinji vacho vabereki nevana vangori kumba. Saka nguva iyoyo ine mubereki wokumba nemwana kumba ikoko vanokwanisa kuti vakwanise kushandisa. Saka ndozve zvimwe zvatiri kuita, but promotion ye20% takabva tangoti ngaingoramba ichienda mberi, asi kuti ukwanise kutenga ne-discount iroro unofanira kunge uri kushandisa 1 month. Saka zvezvakuda kuti vazhinji vachiziya kuti pane opportunity iyoyo iripo yekuti ukatenga airtime yako ukazoconverta to bundle, saka unenge uri kutowana like double benefit. Zvobva zvanyanya kudzikadzika kwandataura kuya kuti inenge yatova very close to 0. Panozongoitawo kakamwe kapoint chaku kekuti tikwanise kuramba timaintaina network yacho, nekuti tikasaimaintaina inobva yashayika, zvobva zvashaya basa. Zvese zvikaita 0 zvinobva zvazoshaya basa. Then besides kuti vakwanise kuaccessa namafoni, takapindawo futi mu-PPE, because takaonawo kuti pane nyaya dzemamaski, pane nyaya dzemasanitizer, pane nyaya futi even mathermometer aya ekushandisa, kuitirawo kuti vanhu vachona vazenge vane utano hwacho vahuchengetedza kuti vakwanise kuzenge vachishandisa mabundles atiinawo iwayo. Ndozve zvimwe zvatiri kuita kuNet One. Then kumaruwa ikoko, mabase station edu tiri kuzama kuti even anga asina speed yeinternet iri pamusoro achikwanisawo kunge achiwana. Tinotori neurongwa, tine zviri kuuya zvatiri kutoti chero tichiri hedu mulockdown imomo tiri kuenderera mberi nekugadzira, kunyanya kuvandudza especially kumarural areas, because ndokwatiri kuona kwakasaririra. Saka tiri kubatsiridzawo kuti vakwanise kuwanawo ruzivo. Zvakanakira kumarural areas kwane vamwe vari kutengesa chero magadgets, vanga vachitawo kurarama through kuitawo magadgets. Totosapota ivavo isusu by going in tichimeka sure kuti network iri available, iri up, inokwanisa kuti vashandise. Avo vari kutengesa magadgets wowanawo market, isusu towanawo kuconnecta vanhu, zvobva zvafamba mberi pamwe chete.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. So we have heard, I mean, there's so much that has been said. We're spoiled for choice, Zimbabwe. Manzwama options, Isaiah, from our MNOs and our ISPs, different ways that they're contributing toward closing this gap and, providing access to all. Yes, there's some almost zero, some that are zero, but at the end of the day, there are many options that I think we all need to understand and support and thank them all for at least stepping into the gap. gap. So now we'll hear from POTRAZ as the regulator of all of you, really, and see what their thoughts are on these initiatives and what it is that you are also driving and hoping that they'll be receptive of in terms of your vision for Zimbabwe. So over to you, Mai Mangwanite.
Okay, thank you so much, Rubeneko. And I would like to appreciate the efforts by all the industry players in making sure that internet is accessible at very low prices during this COVID period, where kids want to learn from home. Parents are also working from home, and everyone is actually using data-intensive applications in order to stay connected and to stay relevant to whatever industry that they are in. So all these efforts are actually appreciated. And POTRAZ has also worked in partnership with various stakeholders to make sure that during this COVID period, people have access to information. We've also availed the 2019 platform, that is the shortcode through which people are calling the Ministry of Health to maybe inquire or to report on suspected COVID cases. But also, because this is a wrap-up session, I would also want to focus on girls in ICT. I think it's high time that as a nation, as a people, maybe as the world over, we need to make deliberate efforts to educate and to mentor young girls so that they just don't stumble into the industry. Because you find most of us, we found ourselves here by chance, not because we made deliberate effort to say, I'll go into the ICT industry, but maybe just because I was an engineer, I found an opening in an ICT company. Ultimately, I grew to love the industry and to understand what it is about. But during my era, I've been in the industry for 17 years. When I joined 17 years ago, there wasn't that much education to say this is an industry that is open to young girls to join. So we need to have that discussion to teach the young girls that there are so many options in the industry. There is so much that you can do. So it's not like it's a closed industry. And because ICTs are normally in the back office, most kids are not exposed to what is happening in there. So we actually need to take those deliberate efforts to build. And we also need, for those who are in the industry, especially young women who are in the industry, we need to build alliances with both our male and female colleagues so that as we go up, they are also able to identify our efforts. I'm one such person who has been helped by both male and female colleagues who helped me to build my confidence in the industry and to understand that even as a woman, I can make a difference and I can make an impact in the industry. And the industry also requires lifelong learning. Like we indicated, it's continuously evolving. 17 years when I joined, 17 years back, the cell phone was relatively new. Not many people were accessing internet on the cell phone, but these days it's the norm. So you need to continuously upgrade your skills and to understand what is happening. And we also need partnerships with everyone in the industry to make sure that everyone is not left behind, be it the service providers in terms of infrastructures in the ICT industry, software developers, and even end users, and also other people that enable the industry to go forward. That is in terms of governance, in terms of policing and everything. There is need for everyone not to be left behind in making sure that we empower the young girls to come into the industry. Sure. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mrs. Chingonzo, over to you.
Thank you very much, Rubeneko. Yes, I think I want to refer to one aspect that was mentioned earlier on, that is to do with the upskilling, raising ICT literacy, for example. And I'm worried about, those areas, those pockets where there is no connectivity. And I would like to say, among the projects that the ministry is running with, there are community information centers, which were mentioned earlier on. Those who have no access should go to those centers and try and learn. There is some training that goes on there so that they learn as far as ICTs are concerned. And as a ministry also, we offer ICT training for free. And we have gone almost to all provinces trying to make sure that we raise the ICT literacy levels. I know that those efforts are insufficient, and hence the sector comes in. And I would like to urge all the ICT players to continue to augment government efforts to ensure that everyone is capacitated in terms of gadgets, in terms of connectivity and usage or literacy. girls and young women can get into ICT-related fields. And like mentioned earlier on, parents have a role to play. And we need also to be aware that ICTs are cross-cutting. They are relevant for all sectors. And that should motivate girls and young women to join this sector. Lastly, let me also appreciate the ICT sector contributions to the fight for COVID-19. They have done quite a lot in this pandemic that is currently facing us.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you very much to all our panelists and our guests. Thank you so much for that. We got some messages that came in on various platforms from young girls across the country. They came in and they shared some of their thoughts on what they understand about ICT and some of the careers that are available to them. So there's many, many messages, but I'll just go through some of them. So this is from Tatenda, a female at Oakdale High School in Form 4. Her understanding of ICT is that she could be a database analyst, she could be a digital analyst. Then there's a 13-year-old from Nose Ticks Girls Academy, Chido. She says, I think ICT is important to girls and to the community because it helps in project management. Today, through ICT, many girls can start projects to help themselves and their communities. They can advertise and raise awareness of current issues or new small businesses in the community. Girls today can become web developers, developing websites for their businesses. They can also become mobile application developers because girls today are more than Instagram models and girlfriends. We are powerful and we are moving with the times. And 2020 is amazing with the help of ICT. I picked her message because it has so much in there, right? It's so rich. And I think I also love the fact that even as a young girl at 13, she understands the power of e-commerce. She understands the fact that, you know, women are not just supposed to be models looking pretty on social media, but that we can use these platforms for different things. So while we do celebrate girls in ICT, we also celebrate women's empowerment. That a mind at 13, as empowered as this, will also raise a generation that is equally strong and will understand how to use the world's technologies for the betterment of their business and their livelihood. So there's so many contributions that came in, and I wouldn't be able to go through all of them, but I just thought I'd highlight that one. And now we're going to have to wrap up our conversation. And just to point out some of the elements that arose from our discussion about us being game changers during this era. It was food for thought to throw out there to all of our partners here today, and all the efforts are there, and we hope to see more continued efforts with the support of POTRAZ and of course with government. And then we also talked about the need for gadgets and devices. Again, this is something that anybody can enter. It's a field that's wide open right now, and there is need for that synergy and that partnership with all of you to make sure we reach these people who need to be able to go to school. I was thinking as we were discussing and as the conversation has been going on globally, how many children really want to do e-learning? A lot of them don't like it. We hope that the COVID era will pass because no one likes sitting and looking at a screen. They want to play with their friends. There's a culture and a community and a camaraderie that comes with going to school. So it's not always ideal. And I never thought that we'd ever talk of the breadbasket, for example, including data and Wi-Fi packages. You know, we talk of cooking oil, salt, sugar, you know, but it's now become one of the basic commodities. We really do need connectivity as a livelihood, as a way of living, and it's no longer optional. And then we also talked of zero-rated access, cybersecurity, which is a big area for us as women especially, and a profound point brought up about our role models needing to come out more. And that's all of you sitting there who can also share your stories about what it is that you've done in this sector. And then also the rising as a woman, it's never easy without being told or whatever it is. So it is good that women encourage each other to stay professional in these dominated industries of men. And then also exciting news from government about the local assembly of gadgets. I think this is very exciting. We've seen this change our industry in Zimbabwe over and over again. We've got our car assemblies, you know, we've got so many ways that we have managed to evolve, and this is a good initiative. So we do thank government for that. And again, e-commerce is growing, so we support that. And also thanking also POTRAZ for the efforts of the short code, that 2019 short code, as it is a time of COVID-19. The reason, as I said in the beginning, we can't can't sit here together is because of what's going on in the world. We can't ignore that. So thank you all for being available, for being connected, and for your internet providers and data bundles holding out for the duration of this conversation. Thank you so much to all of you. Thank you to our guest of honor this morning, Auxilia Mnangagwa, for giving us her words. And as well, thanks to our Minister of ICT, Dr. Muswere. Thank you as well. And your entire team at the ministry for putting this conversation together. POTRAZ, thank you as well for recognizing everyone's collective efforts. And we do hope that we can continue these conversations online. No irony in that at all. So let's continue these conversations. Let's build our country. Let's stay connected. And let's let 0 rated become 0, not 0 point. So thank you very much again to all of you. It's been a pleasure hosting you today. Thank you to Radio Zimbabwe, National FM, Heart and Soul, and all the various platforms that are hosting us, and particularly to Zim Papers and ZTN. That's it from me and all of us today. Thank you. Have a good day. Stay at home. Stay safe. Be good. And if you can't be good, be safe.